a lot of people on Universal. I speak to everybody, right? Again, Drake is solid on this, and I'm gonna respect it, and I think we all should. I don't think it's the best thing to do to be silent because they're trying to act like this was the most non-hip hop move of all time, right? So you need to address it. You need to kind of clarify. And again, I can't say nothing. There's other people who are interpreting correctly, but their voices won't be louder than the source. You got to get ahead of this. Anyway, here's the point. This is what Universal, and these are people that work in the Universal building, have told me. And by the way, to be very clear, I have a really, really good relationship with Universal. So y'all should know, as much as y'all think I'm a Drake stan, Drake ain't never paid me $1. Me and Universal have a great relationship. Just to let you know, right? So anything I'm gonna say, you should probably think is act that much delusional where he's just gonna say some false shit for Drake that's never given him a dime versus Universal, which I am. Me and Universal got a good relationship. Let's leave it there. However, I am, my relationships with anyone, I make sure, even if there's monetary incentives or not, I need to be able to be fair. Because the moment that y'all keep listening to me, and I do have some biases, like I like Drake's music, I'm sorry. Like, all that, like, I like that Kendricks song, Mustard, that's cool, but like half of the album is like, bro, I'm not going to listen to this shit ever again. I always tell you where I don't listen to, Kendrick could be rapping about some shit that I don't care to hear about. I listen to Virginia Beach probably every day. That's my song. I like that song. That's me. You might listen to other music, it's fine. So I do have some biases, but I try to let you guys know. Okay, so let's get into this. And this is coming from the people who are in the Universal building. This is what they're telling me, right? Also, some other people who are great legal minds. Now, I don't know if I believe everything, but some of these things kind of reign true. Let me lay certain stuff out for you. Number one, I'm going to keep saying horrible timing. Horrible. Horrible. You don't drop a petition or file anything legally when your biggest op that you're even accusing these labels or entities of inflating his shit on some fake shit, you don't drop it during his album week, because what ends up happening, you're giving him the pub. You're bringing him into the situation. If you didn't do it during this week, it might have been like this. But because you did it during the week that he dropped, it's like this. We got 3 people on the screen. And he's going to be the person that they're like, oh man, he really fucked him up. Look what's happening. So I thought the timing horrible. Very, very bad. Okay. Now, in trying to understand the timing, a couple people, and again, I'm speaking to these people who are legal people, Universal people. This is what I've heard. Again, I'm saying these things. Remember, I know, because I know some of y'all are starved for what Drake thinks, but I'm going to keep saying it. Drake told me nothing. Told me nothing about any of this. So anything you hear I'm saying does not reflect the opinion of Aubrey Drake Graham. Is not something that I know because he told me or his team told me. This is everything I'm hearing. And this might actually be biased against him, honestly, because his team ain't tell me shit. And this time I have a source that is kind of on the opposite side. Not Kendrick, but UMG. So this is what I'm hearing. So Drake, supposedly in this $400 million deal that he signed, he had one more deliverable left, which is the Party Next Door album. Okay? That particular album was tentatively and slated to come out this fall. Now, prior to the beef in May, or was it April, May, whatever, with Kendrick, there was going to be a last project, something that would come out that would then catapult Drake into his next deal. So here how the music industry works, and this is very important for a lot of people who just sit online and chat shit. It's like basketball. These guys are like restricted free agents, right? You don't let them become a free agent before you negotiate and lock them into another deal. Here's how this also plays. I'll give you a perfect example because we're going to talk about him as well. Remind me to talk about him. Meek Mill. Atlantic knew they were done with Meek Mill before the last album. They realized that they were not going to extend his contract or continue to work with him in the capacity that Atlantic needed to protect or keep an image up about him. Once they knew that they weren't going to offer him what they wanted, they had no incentive to not make him look crazy. And what I mean by look crazy, you know, there's and trust me, chat, keep in mind, you know, and I'm saying this very humbly, even though y'all gonna take it wrong. It's a reason why I've wedged my way into, listen, there's no media personality that could talk shit to me. And there's no other nigga who does anything to talk to. You know why? Because I'm not just a media personality. I've wedged myself into the music business. They all rely on me. So when I'm saying this, I'm also kind of, you know, slightly expose myself or jeopardize myself because it doesn't behoove me to even say certain things that might allow you to see beyond the veil that the music industry puts up. Okay? So the reality is this. If you're ever leaving a label, and I want to make this very clear. If you're ever leaving a label, they're going to try to sign you before you drop your last project. They're going to give you an offer. A lot of these guys, they inflate their value. Oh, okay, I think I'm worth this. I want this amount. No, we're not going to give it to you. Maybe another label's down to give it to you based on what they perceive at the time. When you drop your last album, I could use several examples. Go look back at the last two drops or the last drop with Atlantic with Youngboy. They knew he was leaving. They came to an impasse. He wants masters. They don't want to give him that. They were arguing for months. He brought it to internet multiple times. They were like, all right, fuck it. Let him just drop his project. We don't want to send out an artist hot. Anyway, to get back to like a stupid nigga like Meek Mill, and I love shitting on him because dummies should never be respected. I don't care what your bank account is. Okay? Meek Mill, he asked for a certain amount of money from Atlantic. They laughed him out the building. Number one, they never liked him from the get-go. I talked to people there. I've done mad business with Atlantic. They always said him and his team were assholes. So the people who are pushing pen or like the little pencil pushers and the people who are pushing, they never liked the nigga. So the moment that he started cooling down and he started asking for too much money, overvaluing himself, and they realized that word from the top is that they were going to only offer him this, but he wanted this, fuck him. That's how the music industry works. It's not only for Meek, it's for everybody. Trust me, I hear this. That's why when I'm shitting on Meek, y'all give me credit. It ain't me. The industry kills these niggas. I've been saying I took credit for Meek. Meek was an asshole to people in Atlantic. They couldn't wait to get rid of the nigga. Now, this is not a Meek thing. I'm just trying to show you something. So, that last album he dropped, they were never going to put resources, effort, this and third to make this the biggest thing. It was already written in stone based on the negotiations they were having. Now, granted, if they were going to sign him and he was going to accept whatever terms they did, they're incentivized to make sure he's good. Now, I'm going to relate this to Drake. Allegedly, Drake got one more project, allegedly, or one more deliverable. I don't know if it's necessary, but it was supposed to be this him and party thing. This is why it's interesting. This is what I'm hearing from Universal. Drake's supposed to deliver this new thing. It was supposed to be out of the deal by the time the new year started. He's been negotiating. Here's what happens. And Drake sped through the contract. Drop. What happens is when you're at your last project, y'all start talking. All right, cool, yo. You don't. It's like contract here. Think about NBA. All right, you playing basketball. Sometimes nigga be like, yo, I'm too injured to play. When it's contract here, like that last year before you're a free agent, you suck up that injury, you got to play because you want that bigger contract next. So Drake did everything. He pretty much has one more deliverable. He's been talking to them for a while. Talking to them, yo, I need this. I overdid the full 100. I want 6 or I want whatever. I don't know the exact amount. People are floating around 6. I don't know. Cool. And by the way, this goes into why I think that the Party Next Door record that we're expecting, that Drake said was dropping in November, it ain't dropping. First of all, it's November 28th. It's November 28th. The shit ain't coming. Fuck would it come for? Now, here's the interesting thing. Before Drake could drop that and then potentially be a free agent, he's been negotiating. He's been thinking, I'm going to go get a bigger payday, maybe $600 million, right? And that's where, to come back to the timing, some people with UMG say, listen, the building is shutting down in less than 2 weeks. So record labels, essentially every music company, even Spotify, the people who sign off on all these deals, the main decision makers, they're done for the year in 2 weeks. Also, if you don't have an album already scheduled at this point to come out, you can roll the dice, but you're not having a full staff and a full label really working for you because everyone go on vacation. This is vacation time. So Drake, who's been negotiating his deal or trying to figure out the next deal, and remember, that's what I'm saying about this party project. They're going to negotiate it and try to figure it out before you drop your last project. They can't make you become a free agent. He hasn't been able to figure it out yet. I don't know what I'm not privy to that. I don't know if he says, give me 600. They're like, fuck out of here, nigga. We gave you 400 last time. We'll give you 400 again. We don't know. But they haven't agreed. The beef happens, and from what I've been, told, the conversations have severely not gone in Drake's favor. And the re-upping or whatever, it's just not what Drake would think. And essentially, the timing of Drake filing these things is trying to get to it to possibly get to a resolution before the end of the year, before everything shuts down. Everything kind of really pops back up mid-January, right? Now, that would make sense, right? You kind of drop your lawsuit or petition now. I'm guessing maybe they're at a stalemate. Maybe they ain't talk for a month or two. Maybe Universal comes back and says, yo, come on, let's get that out of here. We'll give you a better deal. Agree to this and let's move the fuck on, right? Because again, another thing that's also a miscalculation by a lot of people, the guy in the middle, which is Lucian Grange, which is the CEO of Universal Music Group, they don't give a fuck about Kendrick or Drake. They look at both of them as, I'm not saying him, they look at both of them as, y'all workers. We don't give a fuck about y'all. They don't have like something personal against Drake. But whatever Drake probably wants, they're not going to give. You get what I'm saying? And also, they probably have devalued them a little bit because of this nigga over here based on the battle. So all of the timing, I guess I said all that to explain the timing. The timing allegedly and apparently has kind of culminated to right now because they're trying to do this, that to continue or to figure out whatever they're going to do for Drake's next situation, but to also get this party project out, which is very time sensitive. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. It feels like the atmosphere is that Universal is going to take the hardball stance on this, unless Drake folds. I think this is poker right now. Drake at this moment could say, I fold. And whatever they're offering him or have offered him, right? By the way, going by his own words, $400 million for the last deal. Let's say they offer him $300 million, which is less. And maybe he wanted $600. If he folds, this goes away. And next year, we see Drake just doing all type of shit, and Universal is toe-in-toe with him. You get what I'm saying? But this is, and I've said this to many people, like so many people who don't necessarily cover the music industry or even cover this type of stuff, they've called me. I said, check this out, people. Drake is having his Taylor Swift moment. And I need y'all to understand what that means. Now, I think there's pros and cons for Drake. But I'm going to tell you why it's his Taylor Swift moment. First and foremost, I should point out that when you see even the top of the top, and we're going to call these people influencers, even though Drake's an artist, but you got to remember, when it comes to music business, like, you're basically an influencer, right? Like, you're not the only one. They can replace you. Like, over time, shit cycles out. What never cycles out is the fact that people listen to music, people subscribe to listen to music. That's what they're selling. They're not selling necessarily one artist, because that artist is going to grow old, might die. Who knows? Right? That's the whole point of how the music industry looks at the artists, but then the artists, they're leveraging what they demand at the time. Okay. So, and I think I lost my train of thought slightly here, but hold on. All right. So, Drake is trying to get whatever he could get. And it's more predicated on whatever deal he was working on. The labels, they don't feel no type of way necessarily about it, but they're not just handing out free cash, okay? I made the distinction to you guys before about when a label signs a new artist that's successful, they're making a 20x, 30x multiple off of their investment. If they give Drake $400 million, or let's say they give him $600 million, for them to make a 10x multiple, Drake would have to generate for that contract, which is probably going to be 3 or 4 or 5 albums, probably 3 or 4 albums, $4 billion. Like, just to put that in perspective, that's not a good investment. Universal Music Group reported that Spotify paid them for 2023 for every artist they have. Weeknd, Taylor Swift, Drake, Post Malone, Kendrick, everybody for the year, $2.3 billion. So what I'm trying to say is that whatever investment they're doing with Drake, I know Drake's the biggest rap artist, but it's not incentivized to think that you're going to get that much of a return in terms of 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, 10x. They're not 10xing an investment on Drake. So it means you're going to give this guy like $600 million, and he's not going to 10x it. He's probably not going to 5x it. Maybe 2x it. Now, I get it. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, but it does matter because these companies are not publicly traded in the bottom line. So, Drake filed this lawsuit, and again, I do think he could fold. The folding would be whatever they're offering him, which is probably what he don't want, but he got to get down and lay down. Now, I do have some problems with this, and going back to what I said, he's having this Taylor Swift moment. Let me explain that. This is very important. Taylor Swift is the only individual, and we're talking post Michael Jackson, who has gone against the label and successfully won and stayed at the label. And the label was still incentivized to push them. Let me give you 2 examples. And these are not musical examples, but here's the thing. When you have a fixed, and I almost want to call it, it's like damn near monopolistic in a sense. I don't know if you guys follow a lot of whether it's legal stuff or you guys follow business stuff. Let me bring in an example. Right now, there's a federal lawsuit. You will see it's been floating around, I believe, U.S. I think it's in the Southern District or maybe Eastern. Live Nation federal lawsuit. Okay. Now, the Department of Justice, they're actually suing Live Nation, saying you guys are a monopoly. Okay, you're violating an antitrust a law that was created, and it's basically saying that it suffocates the competition because it controls everything. Let me explain what that is, right? So monopolistic entities, and I mean there is times that say Amazon has faced that. Just listen to me here a second, you'll get it. I'm gonna tell you why this is important. When a company controls because we believe in capitalism, no company should have that much control that there can't be new competitors and basically they're printing free cash. How does Live Nation do that? Live Nation owns Ticketmaster, which is, hey, if you want to go to a concert, you have to buy tickets. They own the ticketing company. Live Nation controls 80% of the big venues. So if I'm the company that's the touring company, I own the ticketing system. I own the venues. I also own the festivals. And I basically own everything that's around the live musical experience. Am I not? How could you ever beat me? Because now when you say, hey, I want to start up a touring company. Okay, that's cool. You're going against Live Nation. Once I think you're about to like level up, like by the way, they've been doing this to AG touring, who did stuff with Moneybagg Yo, who did stuff with Rod Wave, Lil Baby, and even Sexy Red. Here's the thing, and I know I'm getting deep into the woods here. I told you a story about Baby. They told Lil Baby, yo, we'll give you, I think, what was the number? I think it was like $500,000 or $600,000 per show. Take it or leave it. Now, I'm trying to show you what a conglomerate, monopolistic entity, and this is why, like, it's banned. Like, you can't just be a monopoly. You have to allow competition because capitalism is supposed to encourage competition to get the best prices, right? Especially for the consumer. Lil Baby gets offered $500,000, $600,000 by Live Nation. They said, that's all we could pay you. You'll do all arenas. Let's go on tour. An independent company comes around and says, hey, baby, we could pay you $900,000, $300,000 per date more than the other company. Just go with us. We could get these same venues. We're going to book them and whatever. We're going to deal with all the costs. It's good. In reality, Live Nation could pay a Lil Baby $900,000. But because the way how they control the market, Baby don't got no fucking options. So then you get AG and AG actually, how they try to compete against Live Nation. Then it turns to some other shit, right? It turns to, okay, well, if I'm Live Nation, I'm gonna make sure y'all can't get some of my venues. Because these venues, they book shit out. And if Live Nation's not using them, they will book it to other people. But now you realize somebody's trying to undercut you. You own the venue shit. And then think about this. Are you going to make sure Lil Baby, who didn't do a deal with the company that owns the ticketing company, Ticketmaster, you going to make sure his shit get promoted on Ticketmaster or not? Hell no. You can't. It's going to be shadow banned or it's hard to find them tickets. You know what I'm saying? So it's a monopoly, and that's explicitly banned. Okay, let me bring this back to the music business and bring this back to essentially like the whole thing with like Drake and what he got going on, right? So Universal Music Group kind of is the same thing. Not as much as Live Nation, but it's the same thing. Universal Music Group owns part of Spotify. They have deals and heavy laden incentives with every company that they need to win. So basically, it turns into a situation where Universal Music Group could just print money. If we could influence Spotify to prioritize our artists over an independent artist, how could an independent artist ever compete with UMG? We're giving them billions of dollars to license our catalog. Also, we gave them a discount, but it meant we own part of their company, and also we have certain type of control. They would never say some random Joe Schmo that never did a deal with anyone is going to get Spotify blanketed approval. No, we own part of Spotify. What the fuck? That person that you're going to give blanket all the playlists with got to be someone who works or someone who's signed to UMG. That's how business is being done at the big level. Okay. And I'm sorry for going to these little tangents, but I got to say this for you guys to understand. Okay? So when it now comes to Drake, as I said, he's having his Taylor Swift moment. Taylor Swift is the only person that has made UMG get to one knee for her. Or basically say, we were doing this, but now that you said this or you feel this type of way, we'll go this way. I'm going to give you examples how she did that. Taylor Swift's biggest fight in her career is that she felt that she was robbed of her masters. Universal, and there's a whole documentary about this, when they were trying to get Taylor Swift into a multi-album agreement, they promised Taylor Swift, we'll get your masters by hook or by crook. We'll get it from Scooter Braun or whoever. We're going to give it back to you. That's not how they usually operate. Taylor Swift, what she did was that she wrote letters. Look, Taylor Swift, Big Machine, letter. Like she would write these like letters or whatever. Like she wrote on her Tumblr, like, and her fans would fuck with it. Like Taylor Swift literally said, "Hey, what I'm gonna have to do to get around this, I'm gonna have to drop my old albums again." And her fans was like, "Taylor, we love you. We don't care. Drop it again." Taylor dropped her albums twice, and the second time she dropped it, outsold the first time, even though some of those albums were 10 years old. Why? Her fans love Taylor. Why am I bringing this up? Let's bring it back to Drake. I said Drake is having his Taylor Swift moment. And what I mean by Taylor Swift moment, I'm not saying it's going to be successful. Because Taylor Swift fans rode with Taylor Swift. They made the labels say, Taylor, you're right, and we can't go against you and so many people who love your music. We're going to make things right with you, even if we take a loss. When Taylor said, yo, UMG, I need y'all to work out y'all deal with TikTok, based on how big Taylor was, UMG got back in the negotiation room and worked it out. Drake is trying to have the same thing. I don't know if it's going to work because I'm going to tell you why. Number one, Drake's audience is not as big as Taylor Swift. Number two, Drake is not as transparent with his career as Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift used to write that she was victimized. Look, Taylor Swift, stolen. Like, she would write like, yo, these guys, if they're taking advantage of me. Like, she would literally break it down on how obviously she was getting that Big Machine a lot, which is owned by Scooter Braun. But she would break it down that her fans would be like, no, we love you, Taylor. And this is what it goes back to what I was saying about messaging. Drake just dropped a random petition that's going to lead to a lawsuit. His fans don't even know what's going on. They're like, what's going on? A regular fan doesn't know the business side of this. Like, you're going to listen to Drake or whoever say, oh, no, you're going to get Party Next Door's album when it's ready. That shit's probably done. The business is holding up that album. I guarantee it. I'll put 20,000 on it. That album is done, but it's the Universal bullshit that's holding up that album. Drake isn't that transparent. And that is the thing. Because Taylor Swift is going to tell y'all, hey, when I was young, I signed this deal. I thought I was going to get my this, da-da-da. They robbed me, blah, blah. And her fans rock with her. So that goes into one of the criticisms I have about Drake. We don't know what the fuck you're intending with this. If you're going for a fight, because he looks like he's angling it just by the lawsuits. Looks like you're angling a fight against the labels. But you got to be very honest. Drake has, I think, the best ever audience in terms of hip-hop. People have lived. I've lived, some people think, listen, obviously I'm glad Drake's the biggest artist and he's my favorite artist, but I grew up 15 years of my life. Listen to this nigga's music. 15 years of my life. Every song, cataloging, and it was basically being the soundtrack of what I was going through. Like, I'm connected to the music. That's another thing when people mention Kendrick. Kendrick just rapping a bunch of bullshit to me. He's a great rapper, but his music doesn't connect to my life. I started listening to Drake when I was in college. Nigga, I'm in my mid-30s, nigga. That's been my life. You get what I'm saying? So, again, and there's a lot of people like me. So, for the people who be like, oh, why? His music is, just like I know people who grew up on Jay-Z, they feel the same. Here's the problem, though. I don't think Drake is as communicative about that type of stuff, right? So, let me explain the Taylor Swift moment, and that's what I'm going to explain how Drake is having his. In every situation that Taylor was disgruntled, she was vocal with her fans. She let her fans know what was going on. I'm sorry, y'all. I got to drop my 5 or 6 old albums again because I was robbed and I was taken advantage of. And her fans believed it and they supported everything she did. With Drake, we've been kept out of the blue. And also, it's a hip-hop thing because rappers usually only brag to you. This is why it's hard to feel bad for rappers. All they do is brag about what they've got, and they don't appeal to the side that you could relate to. You don't see Taylor Swift saying, I'm flying on a jumbo jet with the biggest cars ever, and I've spent $40 million buying this person's jewelry. Like, you don't hear that. Taylor Swift just looks like some country girl, but she got more money than everybody. So she appeals to her fans, and her fans be like, well, if Taylor feels like she's getting taken advantage of, we're getting taken advantage of. We love her. Drake doesn't do that. But I do think he's having his Taylor moment because that moment is going to require not only lawsuits. If he's going to go at UMG, he's going to need for his fan base, his audience, to rally around him. Because here's a reason why. And I'm going to give a bigger story. The current music industry is based on Drake and what he did. And I have one critique. I have another critique I levy against Drake. For as great as we do think, and I do think Drake's a good businessman, I never thought Drake took the chances he needed to prepare for moments like this. I'll explain. Brother, let's get back to 2015, 2016. Do you remember when Drake sold 1 million first week? You remember views? I remember slightly before that. If you're reading this is too late. Y'all remember going into More Life. Y'all remember, obviously then we get to Scorpion. Let me tell you one thing that Drake did that if Drake foresaw today ever happening, those conversations would have went differently. I'm going to tell you why. When Drake sat and took a $20 million deal from Apple Music to release his album 1 week before, he rapped about it. I forgot what song. I think, was it Charged Up? Drake, 20 million, Apple Music. He rapped about it on something, right? And I think it came with the 1 week exclusive that he did a radio show, whatever it was. Right? Yeah. Oh, Apple Music pays Drake $20 million for the new album. Now, what we're gonna have to realize, and this is as great. Listen, it's my favorite rapper, but I understand why I'm also the biggest and the best when it comes to this media shit. Because I'm gonna have to give it up how I got to give it up. Here's the reality of it, right? So it says, Apple. So a report from Hits Daily Double back in the day said that Apple Music gave Drake $20 million to create views and give it to them for a week, right? A week. Now, it was exclusive to them. Let me explain how that was short-sighted, and that probably helped put Drake in the position he was. Remember I told you why recently I said, I'm not interested no more too much in deals because I've seen how all this shit goes. When these labels are offering you a big bag, it's because they're getting a big return. I'll give you 2 examples. I even give you an example I'm a part of. Partly, I understand why Joe Budden was wilding out at Spotify, but that's not the way to go if you ask me. You got negotiated in there. When he was like, they gave me, who knows, whatever money they gave him, Spotify initially. But he felt like he was underpaid and they wouldn't pay him what they needed to for this subsequent contract that he probably requested or they were negotiating. I don't know if they did. I knew it when it came to even me with Spotify, right? By the way, everything also it bores true later. You know, I always said that my biggest success with Spotify, I took my first year's paycheck, I threw it all into Spotify stock. I took what they paid me, I bought all Spotify stock. The stock at the time was like 200 and something. During the pandemic, it fell to like 110, 115. That stock now is worth $450. So if you think about it, if I say they paid me $1 million, right? Right? Let's say they paid me that. If I put $1 million in and I never sold, which by the way I did sell, that $1 million 3 years ago, if I waited 4 years after till now, it would be worth $4 million. So it's like they paid me $4 million. So whatever you think they paid me the first year, times it by 4, right? That's would have been the real gain of this. I'm gonna tell you why I'm telling you that information. Because what Drake is now doing, I think is gonna be a little bit. It's gonna fall slightly short and he's gonna maybe try to do what a lot of people do in terms of, hey, I helped build this. Because here's the thing: when Drake got $20 million from Apple Music and Spotify were in a war to the death on who could gain more subscribers to their streaming platform for music. They were doing anything. And they realized the quickest way to get more people to subscribe to Apple Music, which was $10 a month, was to show that certain artists, especially the biggest artists, were only going to drop their music on their platform. And maybe not for the whole time, but exclusively. So I'm pretty sure when Drake took that $20 million, he said, damn, it's $20 million. This is free cash. It's perfect. But what that did is when they did those deals with Drake and The Weeknd, that set up the entire industry. Just give me 1 second. I just want to Google this and show you. So this was views, right? So views was 2016, right? 2016. Let's look at this. Apple Music subscribers, 2016. I just want to show you something. So in 2016, right? In 2016, they touted that, I just want to show you this, right? Them and Apple, they were trying to compete with Apple, right? Not Apple, I mean Spotify. In 2016, you're going to see that they basically said they had around like 20 to 30 million. I know it says December, but they never put out the real numbers. It was basically between 20 to 30 million paying subscribers, right? They were gaining ground on Spotify by paying people like Drake 20 million. Spotify said it had 40 million. So let's just say Spotify had 40, Apple Music had 30. Let me show you something now. Spotify paying subscribers 2023. Because Drake even points to that in the contract. Well, really, it's actually way more than this, but whatever. Okay. 236 million. Now, this is a very important part, and this is what I was trying to say. A lot of what Drake is saying now, it would be contextually defined differently if back then, when Drake got the 20 million, he said, nah, I don't want the 20 million. Since y'all are using me to build, remember, at this time, Spotify has 40 million. So 40 times 4 would be 160. 40 times 5 would be 200. 40 times 6. So they've increased 6x in paying subs, right? Spotify. I know he did deal with Apple, but we're looking at the market. The best thing for Drake to do, remember I told you about the Spotify thing? What they were offering me and how the stock price increased 4x? If Drake had somehow, with the most leverage ever, they needed Drake. They needed Weeknd. They needed these people. If Drake had sat down, brought in UMG, brought in Spotify or Apple and said, hey, listen, we don't have to get down with this. We could just use our leverage with our record labels and say, we're going to drop music in a different way. Since you guys are trying to build streaming, and yes, I'm saying this unequivocally, and this is why I personally feel Drake feels away. Drake built the entire industry of streaming for these bigger conglomerates. Here's the problem. All he did was take the money, and he never took the thing that could possibly have you with some control. Even if Drake says, hey, listen, fuck the money. Just give me, obviously Apple wouldn't give him shit because, Apple Music is not going to, but maybe Spotify would be like, hey, listen, just give me a percentage. Just like how you negotiating with UMG. Well, I'm actually about a fourth of what UMG's bringing in. I'll do a deal with you directly. But I want some piece and some parts of what's going on here. And that's the problem. I'm really telling you that's the problem. So Drake got the jumbo jet. He got the $100 million mesh. He got all the money. But that only matters as long as he's the number one artist that could move the needle. The moment they think you can't move the needle, you don't matter no more. This is why you should have incentivized when you could move the needle to get some real skin in the game. And it's not money. It's power and control. The point is, Drake, while he's gotten, I believe the only artist that's gotten $1 billion off music, didn't utilize his spot in building streaming, in building all these things that he was, by far number one. He didn't utilize that to have the control that later on, which he was eventually going to get to a point where they say, maybe we don't need him as much as we used to. But if you had some power and control, you'd be like, hold on, nigga. Hold on. This is what it's exactly the Michael Jackson Sony play. Drake never did it. Drake took all the cash. He got jumbo jets, buys up everybody's jewelry, fucks every hoe, fucks every nigga bitch, has money just coming out the ass, which is good. We all want money. But what happens is sometimes the industry, and let's go back to Diageo with Diddy before all this happened. Let's go back to, even though that was a much more amicable situation, Bacardi with Jay-Z. It's okay. These companies are cool with paying you $1 billion. But when they think that you can't help their bottom line, or you're not the pendulum switcher no more, they tell you, all right, kick rocks with your $1 billion. Do you get what I'm saying? So when Drake is filing a lawsuit now, and I'm saying he's having his Taylor Swift moment, you know why all these companies bow to Taylor? They know if Taylor says right now, I promise you, if Taylor says right now, I feel like Universal is robbing me, this stream is, she had them reevaluate the price of a stream. You know she did that, right? Taylor Swift streaming payout. She made that a thing. Hold on. She disagreed with it, and then basically, she's going crazy now with it, but okay. Hold on. You're going to see a bunch of Drake stuff, but look, here's the thing, and this is what I'm saying in the Taylor Swift moment. Taylor, in her time at the top, where the labels know you can't piss this woman off, you can't say fuck her, she used her power. You could call it Karen all you want. She used it then. Hey, I don't like this. This looks like it's taking advantage of us. Change it now. And the label know what fight they can fight. They're like, yeah, we don't want Taylor telling our whole fan base to do some other shit. All right, hold on, Taylor. We gonna make it right. Let me tell you what now is told me about what the label's saying about Drake. They're looking at Drake eating a carrot like, nigga, you can't do to us what Taylor did. First of all, yeah, you got a huge fan base, but what you would really need is culture. Nigga, Kendrick got it right now, so you can't use that against us. Oh, your own music? Well, we could try to dampen that a little bit, but you're not the hottest you've ever been. Universal's looking at Drake to say, nigga, we have the leverage now, buddy. It's in our hands. They don't have it with Taylor. They haven't had it for a long time with Taylor. And Taylor bitches every single time they try to play her. Drake has never said nothing. Why? Because he's always taking the money. He gets the hordes of cash. All right, yo, we're going to build streaming off of your back, Drake. Drake's like, how much money you going to give me? You get 20 here, 20 mil here. You get this mil here. You get this here over here. All right, fuck it. Now when they built it to the point, they're like, yeah, bro, it's like 10 years later. We kind of don't need you no more. And I don't think you that lit no more. And also, you got some shit going on with your label. Shit's looking crazy, right? That's my assessment, honestly. Again, Drake's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. But we probably do have to say, did Drake not speak up? If Drake coughed at UMG in 2016, I promise you, if Drake coughed at them, they'd be sucking his dick. 2016. You know why? They needed him. They needed him so much. 2016. 2024? He does drive the market, this and third. But given a couple things, I think we'd be all right. Somebody said, am I a Swiftie? No, I understand business. Only a few people get in a place, in a position where, when you're that person, they'll always pay you. But you also have to think about sometimes, what's going to happen when I'm not that guy, or they think that I'm expendable, or they think I'm not as potent as I once was. And what we're seeing by UMG, and I think he probably starts seeing it in the building. Oh, y'all just disrespected me now. I built this. Drake, listen, it's the reason why, until like the Bad Bunnies came around and the motherfucking Taylor Swift, like really, because hip hop was one of the first consumed. Remember hip hop, when streaming kind of really became a thing, hip hop artists broke streaming records every fucking time they dropped. Hip hop was pushing streaming because you got to remember a lot of piracy. Like I keep telling y'all with Taylor Swift now, she sells 3 million. She's not doing 3 million in streams. Hip hop audience stopped buying. They stopped purchasing. Once they found LimeWire and shit like Kazaa, oh hell no, we're done with this shit. We ain't buying your shit ever again. A reasonable thing that they were down to do was stream. The reason why I told you this about Taylor. You know why Taylor Swift sells 3 million records? Because she could turn in an album 6 months before, and the leak isn't going to fuck up the whole album. That she got to make a new album. Let Drake turn in his album 6 months before. Nigga, that shit will be leaked, getting played every single place. He going to have to make 5 different albums after that. Because hip-hop consumes music differently. So when Taylor drops, she gets her audience, like she's always been in the business of, y'all got to buy my physical, right? Y'all got to buy my vinyls, my CDs. The merch is going to come with that. That's why she sells 3 million, right? Like, if I'm supposed to be honest, Taylor Swift's about roughly about twice as popular as Drake. So Drake's about like 60%, Taylor's 100, right? But if you look at the sales, Drake's last album did 400, Taylor did 3 million. Like, that's 6 times as popular. Is Taylor 6 times as popular? No. She's barely twice as popular. She is popular, more popular. But she's about twice as popular, just by the numbers. But she's dealing with a different audience that will purchase shit. Drake is within hip hop. So what I'm really trying to tell you is that Drake and his counterparts built streaming for the industry because they never relied on Taylor Swift for streaming because Taylor was always still selling. They relied on niggas like Drake. When people stopped buying, they would just stream Drake all day. Drake is still like the highest streaming person, point blank, period. You know what I'm saying? Drake is the number 1 streaming artist, period. He was the, ironically, he's the Joe Budden and the Joe Rogan in terms of Spotify for his podcasts. The point is that he never took the leverage for making shit shake and ultimately was always going to get to a point where they felt like you are no longer the person that we feel we have to just bow and acquiesce to. And I could imagine, I think Drake has probably gotten to a point in the conversation with Universal that they probably offered him something disrespectful, in my opinion. He got 400 last time. Let's say he wants 6. They probably told him, yeah, all right, nigga, you're going to go get 350, buddy. That's what it is. He's like, huh? And I do believe this lawsuit's one of them. Or not lawsuit. Let's call it what it is, a petition. So I do have the petition here, the academy.blog, if you guys want to see it in whole. Here is the second lawsuit. So this is a defamation lawsuit. It was filed in Texas. And it was filed in Bexar County. Now, if you don't know what Bexar County is, Bexar County, Texas is actually where iHeart Media. So this second defamation lawsuit was mainly based around iHeart Media. That's why they filed it in the county iHeart Media is based in, which is San Antonio, Texas, which is Bexar County, Texas. So he's suing iHeart Media, or he's planning to sue iHeart Media and UMG. And we're going to read through this in a second. All right, chat? Everybody in here good? Happy Thanksgiving. Let me see how we looking. Give me 1 second. We're going to read through this. Somebody said, no, The Weeknd is the highest. No. We're talking about from the inception of streaming. The inception. So I'm talking about completely. The inception of streaming. What I'm trying to say is that when the industry went through this period where they said we have to convince the audience to now start streaming music, they utilized Drake to build that market. Remember, it was 20 million for Apple Music and like 30 million at least initially for Spotify. They built that 10x. So you have Spotify, which with 250 million paying subscribers. You have Apple Music that supposedly has at least over 150 or maybe close to 200. They built that entity into 10x. So imagine, again, I know we're talking about, like, put it like this, right? All right, let me show you something interesting, right? Spotify payout 2016 UMG. I don't know if we'll be able to see it. Okay, right? So in 2016, Spotify paid out this, right? Okay. Which, by the way, again, this is a year that Drake really doubles down. So actually, let's go to 2015. I want to do 2015 because 2016 we see a massive situation that was going crazy. Hold on Spotify. Okay, I mean we could figure it out by the math here. They said, all right, it's 58% more in 20. I'll give me 1 second. I'm just showing you some math real quick. No, sure it's the math. All right. Here we go. I'm going to show you math, right? So in 2016, UMG earned, I want to make sure you can see everything. Hold on, chat. Earned 137 million per month, right? Okay, cool. So 137, here we go. 137, we're dealing in millions right here, times 12 is $1.6 billion, okay? $1.6 billion. Now, if they said this was 58% more, right? If this was 58% more, means, or 58% more than 2015. If we divide this by 1.58, this is math, people, you'll be able to understand it. They basically earned $1 million, right? 1.04 million. So $1 million in streaming in 2015, right? So that's what Universal was getting, right? Cool. Remember I told you in 2016 they started a push to do, not them necessarily, because Apple Music was doing that too, right? And by the way, this is kind of unfair to say because Apple paid for most of the exclusives, not Spotify. Spotify was, if you listen, if you follow business, you'll realize because Apple was they had the biggest market share, they spent less money because the number two Apple with more money, they were spending more to try to catch up to Spotify. Spotify was just gaining, right? So I'm hoping you guys are following a bit, but here's the thing. So Spotify, which was bigger than Apple, paid out $1 billion, which means at that time, if we're just going on market share at that time, right? And this is going to be a little bit complicated. Apple Music market share 2015, right? So their market share was what? They had only 13. Even now they only have 13%. Like, yeah. Basically, they couldn't compete. So Apple Music was late to the game. They couldn't fucking compete, right? So just to be very fair and clear, if Spotify paid out $1 billion in 2015, Apple Music probably paid out, I don't know, we're gonna make it up, right? Less than half. So let's just say $400 million. So Spotify paid out $1 billion. Apple Music probably paid out $400 million. They give Drake $20 million, and the next year their revenue increases. Everybody's revenue increases, but Spotify revenue increases 58%. By the way, Apple. The reason I'm not using Apple's numbers, they don't share it. Apple Music, but they've always been like slightly lesser than Spotify. So if Spotify goes up 58 and they didn't spend nothing, it's based on all Apple Music is spending, right? It's very reasonable to say Apple Music went up at least 58, probably like 75 because they're spending the money. Spotify is not. So here's the point. So we're saying $1 billion from Apple. No, from Spotify in 2015, which means probably around $400 million from Apple. Let's say they jump 75%, right? The next year because of what they spent. They gave Drake $20 million, and then they probably then made $1 billion. You get what I'm saying? So they made $600 million more dollars, right? As the years go by, and they used and tried to work with The Weeknd, Drake, and all these other guys to really spark the streaming shit, they probably paid out $100 to $150 million in paying the artist directly. But how much more money did they make? So remember, that's 2015. Let's go to, let me go back 1 second. All right, here we go. Spotify payout 2023. Okay, so first of all, they paid out $9 billion. So Spotify paid out $9 billion last year. And to Universal, they paid out $2.28 billion. Okay? So keep in mind, Spotify has not done anything. They have not invested a dime in exclusives or whatever that Apple did. And their revenue in 10 years has more than doubled. It's almost going up like like 2.5, right? It's at $2.28 billion, which could only tell me that that the revenue similarly for Apple Music has probably gone up. Probably is going to be 1.5 billion, maybe 1.7. Here's the point what I'm trying to tell y'all. If your revenue used to be 400 million for the year, and now it's 1.7 billion 10 years later. I hope y'all, I feel like I know I'm understanding, but I don't know if I'm confusing y'all. So Apple Music and its investments, like giving these artists a little 20 million, which 20 million is a lot of money, but they have increased the market where they could pay out, right? So Apple Music goes from paying out 400 million to 1.7 billion, which is, the difference is 1.3 billion. So even if they spent $100 million or $150 million doing it, they essentially still gained $1.2 billion off that investment. That's the point I'm trying to tell y'all. So when Drake had a lot of that leverage, if he had said, yo, not that and by the way, I'm in no way, shape, or form saying Apple Music was just, oh no, Drake, we're going to give you like percentage. I'm not saying that, because these companies probably tell Drake kick rocks, right? But still, if he could have figured out a way to maybe forego some of the cash, but to keep the control and power that comes with building the infrastructure, his conversations today would be very different with those same infrastructures, if you get what I mean. I'll give you another scenario. Different industry, but Howard Stern, when he was the biggest person on radio, when he went to Sirius, right? They gave him a big deal, 100 million or whatever, but apparently he did get some ownership of the company, which means that these days, do anybody talk about Howard Stern? I don't even know what he does. I don't even know what he does, but he has some significant stake with Sirius that they could never treat him like he's a peon. They could never just be like, well, yo, Howard, this ain't 10, 15 years ago. Fuck you. Kick rocks, nigga. We're going to go get the next guy. They can't ever do that. They got to still put respect on his name, right? And I'm pretty sure that 100 million he took back then, they probably would have gave him a little bit more if he didn't have some type of innate control on that situation. And I think that, I hope y'all get what I'm saying. That's the problem with this Drake shit right now. Because Drake, again, I don't think nobody but Taylor could move people that the labels would care. So the labels are looking at Drake to say, yeah, you got a big audience, but, you know, we've done a lot to help create you. It might take a while, but we could create another you. And you don't have the power and control to do or tell your fans or to affect the market that we're hurting. So why the fuck are we going to pay you? Do I get that? Okay, cool. All right. Anyway, let's read this defamation lawsuit. So again, you guys could go to the academy.blog and go see the whole thing. And essentially what this is a, the first one that was filed in New York court was under Frozen Moments, but this one is filed directly from him. It actually says Aubrey Drake Graham. This is the petition number, really the docket number. And it's filed in the 225th District Court of Texas, which is Bexar County. Now, here's the thing. It's requesting depositions of iHeartMedia and UMG recordings. And this is how it starts out. It says, Petitioner Aubrey Drake Graham is requesting an order authorizing under Texas rule, blah, 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 pre-suit depositions of the corporate representatives of iHeartMedia. Now, remember, the first lawsuit was saying that Spotify had altered numbers to do it. This lawsuit's a little bit different, but it's kind of crazier than the first. I'm gonna tell you why. He's suing the radio company, saying that he's alleging that his label UMG colluded with them and did possibly some illegal things, which payola is illegal on radio stations that are using FCC airwaves. So he's basically accusing his record label of a crime. The problem with that, and we're going to get to it later, if and we don't know if this is true, but let's say if UMG has ever done any of the similar things for Drake, it looks crazy. So you accusing UMG of paying radio stations. If they've ever paid a radio station for your song, you look crazy now, right? And now you also, for me in the media and everybody else, we should love these lawsuits because we're going to figure out the real behind an artist getting popping. We're going to even figure out the real behind Drake getting popping, because if UMG has to respond and if everything comes out publicly, they're going to have to disclose what did they do for Not Like Us. But in their defense, you know what they're going to say? We've done this for everything that's popular over here, including Drake. So that's going to be big and important. We'll see, though. So anyway, so the UMG, which includes Interscope Records, which is owned by UMG. Cool. So let's go through some factual background stuff. It says Respondent UMG is one of the handful of companies that dominate the multi-billion music industry. When it comes to the release of new music by the most prominent artists, UMG is meticulous in its planning and execution of the music it releases, promotes, and backs with considerable financial resources. That is not true just because of the amount of money on the line for UMG and its shareholders, but because UMG executives are eligible to receive incentive bonuses based on the revenue generated from the respective divisions. Now, what he's speaking to here is what I've also heard. And let me give another interesting take, right? And I'm sorry, I know y'all just read through this like a bot, but this is why you tune into me, I would hope. So, chat, I'm speaking to some people at Universal, and they're like, we even read through some of the lawsuits. Some of the shit got some sense, but some of it's a lot of bullshit. Won't say who, but there's some people who feel like Drake's wilding. He's losing it. Like, damn, they're almost bordering on delusionality, according to them. But that's how they're framing it. And I said, how? Like, come on, no. I'm a little bit cynical, but it makes sense to me a bit. I'm negotiating for a deal that's really big, maybe $600 million. Like, y'all don't want to pay $600 million. Y'all want a discount. I'm not giving discounts. I just banged out the last deal that was $400. Fuck that. Let's get to give me the money. Show me the money. Now, the conversation that I had was like, hey, listen, if you think we would intentionally sabotage Drake to build another artist, number one, that's crazy. But let's say sabotage Drake for the purposes of some not trying to give him whatever he wants. Let's explain how UMG works, okay? And his allegations of executives are going to receive incentive bonuses is true, which means if you have an artist that artist performs well that year, the executives are going to get bonuses. That's how their salaries work. So they tell me, they say, this actually disproves what Drake is trying to make as his point. Because here's the reality, and let's break down UMG. Y'all ready? This is where everybody get their pen out. And by the way, all the other YouTubers who basically have no idea how this thing works, just copy me or whatever. Y'all could get your pen out too. So UMG, let's go to Universal Music Group. Universal Music Group org chart. Let's look at the org chart. This is going to be can we find it? Okay, well, it shows Lucian at the top, but we really want the labels. Okay, bet, perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. All right, so you see Big Sir Lucian at the top, okay? So this is going to be the guy, Lucian Grange. He's at the top, right? So you see corporate management and then major business unit and territory leadership, okay? You're going to see a bunch of other people who fall beneath Lucian here. And you're going to see the vice president, controller, or, chairman and CEO of UMG Pub. So there's Universal Music Publishing Group, or UMPG, actually. You're going to see general counsel. So that's all their lawyers. So anytime you sue UMG, this is person they're an executive. They handle business affairs. They're to make sure that y'all don't get no money from this company, right? The vice president right here, hold on, I gotta make sure you can see my mouse. The vice president right here is the chief people and inclusion officer, which I don't know. Maybe that's some new shit, but okay. EVP. So this is the executive vice president of UMG. Okay, bet. We see a chairman and we're gonna see a bunch of people. This is whatever. Now, what is going to be very interesting as we go down this org chart, okay? We're gonna stick to, because on the left side, this is corporate management. They don't deal with artists. They deal with mostly, more mechanical things. Are you suing? Is it like, what about the contracts? What about, you're going to see chief digital officers. They're going to deal with the platforms they're working on. Financial officers, they're just dealing with money. They're not dealing with artists. So we're going to move half the chart away. Okay. Now, the other part of the chart we're going to care about is this other part we just read, which is the major business unit and territory leadership, right? This is where underneath all this, you're going to see all the labels, right? So let's go to it. We read the first line, nothing too crazy that we need to see there, but let's keep going, right? Market development, all right, whatever. Now we're starting to see some interesting people. John Japnik, okay? I want everybody, again, these are people you'll never hear their names unless you're watching my stream, okay? But we're going to get on to this shit. John Janik is the CEO and the chairman of Interscope Geffen. Geffen and Interscope combined at a time. Geffen used to be a separate label, but they all combined. And Interscope used to be ran by Jimmy Iovine, who left for Apple with Dr. Dre when they did the Beats thing. They run Interscope. Now, Kendrick Lamar is actually off of Interscope. He's being distributed through Interscope. The whole TDE is through Interscope. Let me explain to you what UMG is, right? And this is where I might have to get out my handy dandy notepad. Let's get to I like breaking the shit down in a way that, actually I'm opening Microsoft Paint. Because this should be seeming very hard to explain, but it's really not. So I'm going to just explain it, let me see. Here we go. Cool. Sorry, John. What the fuck? Man. All right, here we go. Bet. Cool. All right. So, and this was kind of explained to me. All right. So we have UMG. UMG. Let me get my thingy right. Let's go 20 font. Yeah. Okay. We got UMG. All right. I'll erase. Fuck. All right. Here we go. We got UMG. Right. Now, UMG is a big label. As I said, there's so many parts. There's so many people. But we're going to only think about music. Beneath UMG, when it comes to music that we care for, right? We're not talking about country. We're talking about hip hop mostly, and sometimes I go into pop. The two big labels that are really serving and doing everything are going to be, and from what this is the best explanation. I'm trying to give you layman's terms. It's broken down East and West Coast people, right? So we got on the East Coast, when it comes to rap and more cultural music, some pop stuff, you're going to get a label called, let's start with West Coast. West Coast, you're going to get two labels, Interscope Geffen, right? And also Capital, okay? So, give me a second. So, Interscope Geffen Capital. They're the big dogs, okay? On the East Coast, so that.
Did you guys enjoy Kendrick Lamar's new album? Genuine question. Was his album good? Was it mid? Let me know. My thoughts on the album is that, like Axe said, I feel like he's gonna do 300 to 500K. If he goes above 500, not surprised. Like the album, like what Axe said, there's no hits on there. It doesn't really feel like an album. Like this feels like a mixtape, bro. Like he just drops it. Like he's missing like 12 hours of sales. But hey man, bro. Kendrick Lamar is just weird. Won't be surprised uh, you know, he's Kendrick Lamar's 100%, 1,000% selling over 100. I feel like he's 85% selling over 200. Now 250 plus, who knows? I'm saying 250 to 500. Like that's what I'm giving for Kendrick right now. Plus he's piping hot right now, like especially after the Drake situation. So let me know in the comments how you guys feel. It's your boy Big Egg News. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'm